This was my Instagram on October 18th, 2024. 235 followers. This was mostly friends and family. I hadn't really posted anything at the time. This is my account on October 31st, 1,259 followers. And this was my account on December 7th, the same year, 50,700 followers. I had a video go viral in November with over 4 million views and another one with over 2 million views. And I did all of this while working my 9-to-5 job in tech. So no, I was not posting 3 times a day. There were some days where I didn't post at all. And I'm a new creator, so no, I didn't have an audience on other platforms that I could market myself to. And no, I didn't pay for followers. Here's the thing, I genuinely believe that if you have a 9-to-5 job, especially in corporate, you are in a prime position to be a great content creator. I made a whole video about that last week, but today I want to share the top 10 tips I wish I knew if I were getting started again today as a content creator with a 9-to-5. A lot of these also apply if you don't have a 9-to-5, don't work in corporate, but all of them are from the perspective that this is not the only thing you do in your day. So I will not be telling you to post 3 times a day, engage constantly, so on and so forth. I'm Hannah and I started creating content last year to help you grow your career, whether that's pivoting to tech, building a side hustle, or investing in yourself. And the reason I'm talking about my content creation journey is because I think as someone with a non-linear career, creating content online and building your personal brand is an incredible way to bet on yourself in your career, whether you want to stay in corporate or you want to try something else and build something for yourself. And FYI, I know I'm saying it's 10 tips, but under each tip, there's like a million other things. Long story short, this is just going to be a lot of information because I don't like to gatekeep and I'm kind of just yapping at this point, so you're going to get all of it. There's so much I could talk about as a new creator and everything I've learned, but today I'm just going to be focused on growth. So if there are other topics you're interested in, let me know in the comments. So number 1, how do you pick your niche or focus? Or to put it more simply, what are you going to talk about? So it's totally okay if you don't have the clearest sense of this or if it's changing day to day. To be honest, this is something that evolves over time for a ton of creators, including for myself. But even if you don't have the clearest sense of what your niche or focus is at this moment, but you have to start with some niche or focus because otherwise you're just going to be too scattered and not know who you're speaking to. I know you've probably heard the word niche and it gets a weird rep among content creators and on social media sometimes because some people say niches are dead and other people say you need to become or create your own niche. While I think those are all really valid points, there's just a lot of discourse on it, and maybe the better way to think about it is just what your focus is and who your audience is rather than niche specifically. I just think of this as who am I talking to? I'm not going to be able to help you solve this in one video, but I do want to share some of the questions that I asked myself, and in fact I continue asking myself almost every day to figure out who my audience is and what their problems are. Not all of these questions are going to give you instant clarity, so I'd really take stock of all of them together. Start off with who do you want to help or who is your audience? One good trick for this is think of yourself 3 to 5 years ago. What problems did you face that you were able to solve and you can help other people solve? What were your biggest fears, struggles, or goals? So for my content, I think back to when I was working in investment banking, I felt lost and confused and didn't know what to do next in my career. What do people in your life already come to you for advice on? What are you the go-to expert for? For me, a lot of my friends come to me for advice on what they should do next in their career or to look at their resume or help them prepare for an interview. When I was doing my MBA, this is something I helped dozens of people with in an official capacity at the school. Another important question is, what are your values? For example, if you're someone who makes content about working from home, maybe your values are freedom and autonomy, and this is something that when it shows up in your content is going to make people resonate with you and want to follow you. What is your story or your unique edge? What is something that you have that other people in your field or your industry don't have? So for me, when I was looking into the career or professional content focus, there are a ton of career coaches out there, lots of people talking about how they navigated their professional journey. And I think what makes me stand out is I worked in investment banking, which not a lot of people do. I transitioned to tech, I got an MBA, and I kind of have a uniquely non-linear career path. And that resonates with a lot of people and is something a little bit different and refreshing. The last 2 questions, what unique skills do you bring to the table? This is similar to your unique story, but might be something more specific. This is related to what your unique story is, but really comes to more hard skills that you can offer someone. So for example, if you work a 9-to-5 in marketing, those are hard skills that other creators in your niche may not have. And lastly, this question is a little bit different, but you should ask yourself, do I want to be a creator or an influencer? As a beginning content creator myself, I thought everyone who made content online was an influencer, and turns out that's not true. Now I think of an influencer as someone who is more lifestyle focused. People look at their fashion choices or what they do in a day to get influenced on what products to use and buy. But on the other hand, creators focus on education and advice and information. I definitely am more in the content creator camp. You do see people who cross both, but I think this is an important question to ask yourself to figure out what value you are bringing to people. As someone with a 9-to-5, you can certainly do both. You can give advice on maybe how you got to where you are today professionally, or you could showcase content like day in the life of a marketing manager and show all of your outfits and your routines. A couple of other tips as you start to pick your focus. If you really don't know where to start, one great place is to figure out which core human need your content addresses. What I mean by that, 3 things people fundamentally will always care about no matter what product or service you're selling is their health, their wealth, and their relationships. You can Google this online, there's a ton of literature about this, but if your content can speak to 1 or 2 or all of those 3 core things, that's how you're gonna get people's attention because they are always going to care about those things. So for example, if you talk about personal finance, that's under wealth. If you talk about fitness, that's obviously under health. The other very simple tip that most people really don't do is talk to your audience. DM people, talk to your friends. Think about the person you're trying to speak to and the problems you're trying to solve for them. Find out what they actually need and what they wanna hear you talk about. So for example, in my case, before I ever started posting on Instagram, I made a LinkedIn post telling my story of transitioning from investment banking to tech. I offered coffee chats to people. I spoke to over 20 people who were navigating similar journeys and found out exactly what they wanted to hear from me. And the last thing I'll say about a niche before we move on to other topics is just if the idea of having a singular niche or focus feels too limiting to you, don't think of it that way. Your niche or your focus can be a portfolio of things like career, finance, and lifestyle. And it all really goes back to who is the person you're talking about, what are the topics and things they want to care about. But even if you do have a portfolio of things you have in mind, sometimes it does help to start with just 1 or 2 of those core things that really target your audience. And eventually this can evolve into things like your content pillars, which you will hear more experienced creators talk a lot about. Okay, number 2, now that you have your focus, what are you actually posting? So social media is obviously always evolving, so I'm not going to get too nitty-gritty into the exact formats and trends and things that work right now, but I want to talk about what's always going to be relevant and a few tactical tips that help me. So one thing that is always going to be relevant is your content should primarily speak to your audience. Your audience is first. I know I sound like a broken record saying this, but it's what I try to remind myself of every day, and whenever my content is off track is because I am not focusing on this. What does your customer want to achieve and how can you help them get there? A couple questions I like to ask myself to really focus on my audience is, what do they care about? What do they want to achieve? How can I help them achieve it with specific tips or tricks or advice? What do they really need in that journey and what's stopping them from achieving their goals? This might seem more straightforward if you're a content creator as opposed to an influencer, but even for an influencer, your target audience wants to achieve a certain lifestyle. And so how are you showcasing your life in a way that helps them get to that end goal? And when you're creating content, something you should always ask yourself is this piece of content serving myself or serving my audience? I really want to be honest with yourself. Personally, looking back at my content, immediately see things that primarily serve me rather than serve my audience, and usually those pieces of content don't do as well. If it's just for you, save it for the stories. In terms of more tactical tips, because the landscape is always evolving, you should follow content creators who talk about creating and social media trends. Once you start creating, the algorithm will serve you these people, but definitely follow Adam Mosseri, who's the head of Instagram and probably the most direct source on algorithm changes and trends in social media. The other tool I use a lot is creator search insights on TikTok. This is so powerful. It shows you things that people, your followers, are searching, and content gaps, which are things that people search for but don't get enough results for. And I would also follow key people in your niche, see what they're posting, see what's working, learn from them and adapt. The other thing I would do is really understand what are the different content types on social media and find a mix that works for you. Again, this is always evolving, but a few types that you'll see are talking head videos, which is literally just you talking to the camera. These are more for advice and education. This is the majority of my videos. You can also have voiceovers, which are narrations with B-roll. This is better for storytelling or if you're a shyer creator that doesn't want to get in front of the camera. And then you also have less time-intensive formats of content, which are carousels. These can be great for step-by-step guides or photo dumps and much less work than a video a lot of times, or looping videos, which are 5 to 10 seconds, sometimes with a bunch of text on the page or a really long caption in the case of Instagram. I would pick a mix of these types that work for you and the amount of time and energy you have to dedicate to content. I'll talk more about that in a different step. The other thing thing is, you'll hear this 100 times from 100 different creators, but the hook really is the most important thing in all of your content because most viewers will scroll away within 3 seconds. This is something where you should show your personality, show what makes you unique, maybe say something a little bit spicy and dramatic and controversial. For example, my video that went the most viral with over 4 million views had kind of an unhinged hook where I said, I paid $200K to learn this at my Wharton MBA, but I'll teach you for free. A little dramatic, yes, but it worked. Third tip, equipment and software. This is gonna be really short because most people overthink it. You really do not need a fancy setup. I had my phone, a tripod, and a light. That was pretty much it. I literally started with this $8 clip light from Amazon, and I didn't even have a tripod until I had like 1,000 followers. I bought this tiny cheap one that was probably also $10. I did eventually get this more powerful light. I'll link everything down in the comments. And then for editing, just use CapCut. It's free. I do have the pro version and I like it because you can cut out the background and do green screens. And they have a couple other features, but even that is like $8 a month. And then microphones, you'll see a lot of creators who have a little microphone. It is better for the audio quality, but I honestly didn't have one until I had over 50,000 followers. That said, having a little microphone like this could be nice if you're shy talking to the camera and it's something that helps people. But even this is like $15. Number 4, how often should you post? You're gonna hear so much different advice on this, so this really is just my 2 cents. As someone with a 9-to-5 who does not have all day to dedicate to this, one thing I do is time blocking. I'll figure out at the beginning of the week what exactly I need to do in terms of how long is it gonna take to script, how long is it gonna take to film, how long is it gonna take to edit? And I put those things on my calendar around my schedule, usually right before work, right after, so that way I know I have time to do it. Batching everything like scripting, filming, editing, it saves time and it reduces decision fatigue. And then quality over quantity, it's just not realistic if you have a 9-to-5 to post every single day. I personally think starting at 3 times a week is a really good way to start, because if you're able to sustain that, maybe you can go up to 4 or 5 times a week. And we talked a little bit about video formats, so I would choose a mix of things that make sense for your schedule. So if you're posting 3 times a week, maybe you're posting 2 talking head videos that are 30 to 60 seconds, but then also 1 5-second video with a lot of text that takes you 5 minutes to create. I'll be honest, the number of times I post on a week-to-week basis changes. It's something I'm still trying to figure out. Managing my time, balancing everything is something I absolutely struggle with as well. Number 5, I would focus on figuring out one platform to start. For me, it was Instagram because that's where I kind of went viral and things took off. You'll hear this advice a lot, but don't try to be everywhere all at once. It's gonna be overwhelming. I did eventually start cross-posting to TikTok and YouTube Shorts once I realized that it was just the same content and I just kind of repurposed it. But focusing on one platform is just a great way to get into the habit of creating and posting. From there, once you have a solid base, it's much easier to branch out. Number 6, this goes against a lot of the content creation advice you're gonna hear, but don't overthink or overplan when you're first starting. I see a lot of advice out there on your content calendar, what you should post in a week. I think that's all great, but when you are truly first starting out, you really need to experiment and see what sticks. Some things you can truly only learn by doing. And what I mean by that is keep your plan really bare minimum, right? Like I want to post 3 times a week and maybe plan at the beginning of the week, these are the topics I want to post about, these are what the videos are going to look like, but I just wouldn't go beyond that because when you're first starting, you really need to figure out which of those topics really resonate with your audience, what does well, what doesn't, and be able to change how your content looks on a week-to-week basis. I also wouldn't restrict yourself. Even if you said I'm posting 3 times a week, sometimes inspiration might strike. You might see a trend and say, I have a really fun twist on that would really resonate with my audience, or see a video that you want to stitch or duet because you think you have a great response. I would just really focus on leaning into your instincts when you're starting. Some of your best ideas are going to be things that are completely unplanned and come out of nowhere. For example, I had the idea for my video that got over 4 million views one random Sunday night, and I was just like, oh my God, I have to do it. So imagine if I had stuck to my content calendar. On content calendars, yes, you will want to have one eventually. I have a really simple one in Notion now, but I still do content planning more or less on a weekly basis, except for with brand deals, because I like to be able to react to things and keep things flexible. Number 7, your goal should not be to go viral. I know it's easy for me to say, right? Because I literally did go viral, but hear me out. Just do me a favor and take a scroll on TikTok or Instagram. And when you find a viral video, go to that person's profile. How often does the video video actually match what the person's profile description says that they do? And how often does that video actually make you want to follow them? I saw a girl whose whole profile is about giving career advice, and the video she had that went viral was about a vacation she went on. So yes, she's probably getting a lot of views, but she's not necessarily growing or building an audience that way. Instead, I would focus on consistency and quality. I said this already, but always go back to ask yourself whether a piece of content serves yourself or should serve your audience. You should share content that makes your followers want to come back. So at the time that I'm making this video, one thing that a lot of creators are doing are series or episodes where they say things like, day 2 of rebuilding my entire life over. This is a creator who's done this super successfully, but it's things that really make people want to come back because they want to hear the rest of your story or other advice that you have, and they know that they can come back for this content. And that's what makes people actually follow you when the internet is so crowded. However, I am not going to sit here and lie to you and say that going viral doesn't help. So number 8, my next piece of advice is, if you do go viral, capitalize on that momentum. This is honestly something I wish I did better, which is why I'm sharing it with you now. My one video with over 4 million views got me tens of thousands of followers. So my advice to you, if something like that happens, is if a video takes off, double down, make follow-ups, expand on the topic, think, engage in the comments, see what people want to hear more from you about. Ask yourself, why did this resonate so well with my audience? What problem did it help them solve? What vibes did it give? How can I replicate that? And ride that wave while people are paying attention to you. Make a part 2, part 3. Think about how you can turn this into a recurring theme. Number 9, we're almost at the end here. Get a lot of advice when you're starting out, but take it all with a grain of salt. And that's because one person's strategy isn't going to work for everyone. You should always be learning from a ton of different creators, but test things out for yourself. This is my dog, Duke. He wanted to say hi. Duke, say hi. Okay, now he doesn't want to say hi. And what works for someone in one niche might not work for you. But on the other hand, you could also see a trend or a content format that takes off in a niche that's completely different from yours, and then you're able to adapt it to your audience and it takes off. And even the advice I'm giving you right now is a mashup of advice I've gotten from other creators, things I've learned along the way, and really just things that have worked for me that I'm sharing with you, some of which will work for you, some might not. Okay, last tip, you have to work on your mindset. This is something I am still working on every single day, and all the cliche advice you hear on this is true. You will doubt yourself, you will feel cringe, you need to post it anyway. All of that is easier said than done. I can sit here and tell you this, but you need to just go out and do it. Some of your videos will flop. The only way to make it out is through and to keep working on your mindset of growth. And what I mean by that is your first 10, 50, 100 videos even might be really bad, but you need to always think to yourself, how can I get better with every single video? One thing I will never tell you is that, oh, just by making more videos, you're gonna get better. Yes, that's true, but let's think about the cause and effect here. You making more videos by itself is not gonna make you a better creator. You making more videos and reflecting on how each one of those videos performed, looking at the analytics, thinking about what resonated with your audience, that's the mechanism by which your future videos will be better. You are gonna go through periods where your content is bad. And what I mean by that is your engagement and views might be low. It might also be content that you personally don't feel aligned with. You have to keep that growth mindset of how can I improve? How can I do better? Even if hundreds of your videos flop. I had a period just last month where on Instagram and TikTok, with all the algorithm changes, prioritizing engagement over follower counts, followers not seeing my content, I had a period where my views were really low, engagement was bad, and I just felt like I wasn't creating content that served my audience, felt good, felt genuine. And for a while there, it felt really bad. And the only way out of that was just pushing through and doing it. I know it is easier said than done, but I still have to say it. So if you made it this far, I just want to let you know that I see you, 9-to-5 content creator. I'm rooting for you in your corporate creator journey. I hope you'll try out some of the tips I gave today because a lot of them work for me, and I hope you keep experimenting with different content formats and taking advice from different people and seeing what really works for you. And if you're also creating content while juggling a full-time job, I would love to hear from you in the comments.